I have my own unique take on birth, as in the births of my 5 children. I have distinct sensory memories, the welcome pain of bearing down into the promise of near completion, the smell of birth, freshly cut spring grass mixed with bread dough rising, a first breathy cry, and the melting of my skin into each of theirs during their first nursing. But my sense of the second birth of my 4th child was something altogether different. It was his rebirth after addiction, and it came on the heels of lies and deceptions. For 2 years, he did not listen to his mother. On that night, after he threw himself out a 2nd-story window, I watched in abject terror as a halo of crimson expanded beyond the outline of his head into a sprinkling of pristine snow on my neighbor's driveway. I crouched next to him, brushing shards of glass from his hair, his neck, and his chest. His forearm took the worst of it, a sluice of scarlet spilling readily. My son alternated between writhing in pain, holding his right wrist, which had broken his fall, and then reaching out to me, whimpering and telling me how much he loved me. I just needed him to be still, and when he jumped up, I pulled him back down and covered his naked body with my coat, trying to judge the damage to his head and his eye. The fire truck showed up first, and then the officers. Until an EMT ruled out a spinal cord injury, neither of them could touch my broken child on the driveway. I dutifully outlined a list to the officer: tons of pot, mushrooms, and LSD. My son reported taking 3 tabs hours earlier. Just before the ambulance arrived, my husband and I raced to dress our son in sweatpants, a shirt, socks, and a jacket. After the ambulance left, I bolted upstairs to hold my trembling daughter, our family dog on her lap, both secured behind a locked door. She abruptly ended her call with my oldest son in Brooklyn. He was leaving for LaGuardia and would be home with us in the morning. My sense of time was slippery. I turned my focus to something concrete. I patched my window with cardboard to block out the frigid January air and tried to sleep. This was the same kind of sleepless night I'd been living for the last 2 years. I'd often catch the acrid, or cloying smell of bad pot streaming down the vent that drew a line from my pillow on the 2nd floor to my son's bed on the 3rd. I'd hear a stumble and a fall, like a bag of bricks tumbling from a sack. My child did not listen to his mother. My story isn't special. I'm not special or unique. I wasn't chosen to mother a child through addiction because I have more of this or that. Our stories are usually more alike than different. Many of us have a searing pain etched in some deep corner of our bodies and beings. My experience helps me to recognize yours and to hold both as messy and sacred. I was a mother who loved a child who was deep in addiction, and I made many mistakes. I shared too much or too little information with my other 4 children. I took it personally when psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists, and rehab centers couldn't take my son during COVID lockdown when many providers were overextended. During his first round of treatment, I refused to believe that my child was looking for ways to incorporate drugs into his life. But when I made it to my son's bedside the next day, his words changed everything. I need help. I'd made mistakes and been told no, but the most important people said yes. A gifted sober coach took my son on, making house calls as my son couldn't drive with 2 broken arms. My employer said yes to shortened hours so my husband and I could spend days with my son in shifts. All 5 of my children said yes to radical forgiveness, brutal discussions, and intense family therapy. At the hospital, any anger I had slipped off my body, through my feet, and into the floor. This was the beginning of my yes, an updated yes. I felt a seismic shift in my response to parenting a child in active addiction. In 2 years, he'd never said those words to me. I need help. Instantly, I recognized that my efforts, no, my over-efforting at attempting to out-love addiction had been for naught. It was correct that he didn't listen to his mother, but rather listened to the small, still voice inside of him. At that moment, I surrendered. I experienced addiction like a tsunami, ravaging roots, crushing structures, and wreaking havoc. I could no more control a tsunami than I could control someone else's addiction. In my surrender, I yielded my own timelines and possible solutions to a more natural evolution. My child's disease had to follow its own organic course. In the wake of my figurative tsunami, I found an invitation to replant my framework for motherhood, to build stronger habits of communication with my children, and to revel in the washing clean after the floodwaters. This time, I chose to ease myself into the laboring and only deliver help when asked. I've become a wiser mother, a more careful observer. I pitch in only when I hear the words, I need help. Taking a cue from my son, I've adopted this sentiment for myself. Now, I name my needs more often and seek support, and my life is better for it. I may have labored to give birth to my children, but in the end, it's clear. It's clear that they have breathed life into me.